All right, today we're diving into Dr. Kevin Leman's book, Smart Women Know When to Say No. We're going to unpack a really powerful idea, that saying no isn't selfish at all. Actually, it's one of the best ways to show that you truly value yourself. Let's get right into it. So does this question just hit a little too close to home? You know that feeling, right? Just being totally wiped out from trying to keep every single person around you happy. And in the process, you kind of forget about what you need. Well, if that sounds familiar, you are definitely in the right place. So, what do we even call this kind of behavior? Well, our first section is all about that. We're going to identify what a pleaser is and really understand the hidden but very real costs that come with always saying yes. Okay, listen to this definition. The most important word here, it's learned. See, nobody is born a pleaser. It's a role you've been conditioned to play, this deep-down belief that your worth is completely tied to how happy you make everyone else. It's almost like you're wearing a mask, and eventually, that mask just starts to crack under all that pressure.
And check this out. Dr. Leman's pleaser pyramid shows exactly how this whole thing escalates. I mean, just look at the path it lays out. You might start off near the top, being a positive pleaser. And yeah, it feels good to help out. But if you don't get that support back, you start to slide down into feeling played out, then depressed, until boom, you hit the bottom, totally discouraged. It's a really slow but steady slide into hopelessness.
So, what's really driving all this? It's this incredibly powerful inner script. Dr. Leman calls them lifelines. These are beliefs that you hold so deeply, and they just run on a loop in your mind. Things like, I only count when I make everyone happy, or even, I only count when I suffer for the sake of others. I mean, these aren't just thoughts. For a lot of people, they're the rules they live their entire lives by. But where in the world do those rules even come from? Well, as we're about to see in Section 2, the roots of these patterns often go way back, all the way to our inner child and the lessons we picked up when we were really young. This quote from Dr. Leman, wow, it's so important. The idea here is that the child you used to be is still a part of you, quietly pulling the strings on your decisions today. For better or for worse, she's often still looking for the same kind of approval that she learned to expect when she was just a kid. So for example, take a look at these two paths. On the one hand, you have the drill sergeant parent, always barking orders, which teaches a child to please people just to avoid getting in trouble. Then on the other hand, you have the neglectful parent, who's maybe there physically but not emotionally, which teaches a child to do anything just to get some attention. Two completely different paths, but they can both lead to the exact same place, a lifetime of people-pleasing.
And that's the real takeaway here. Whether it was through too much control or not enough attention, the lesson a child learns is the same. My worth isn't guaranteed. It's conditional. I have to earn it. And that belief, well, that becomes the foundation for everything that comes later. Now, this kind of dynamic doesn't just happen in a vacuum. A pleaser's deep need to give often attracts someone with an equally deep need to take. So let's flip the coin over and look at the other side, the controller. The controller is basically the natural counterpart to the pleaser. They're almost instinctively drawn to that giving nature because, well, it serves their own needs. They want to be in charge, they're often very critical to keep that control, and saying, I'm sorry, yeah, that's incredibly difficult for them. So how can you spot a controller? Here are 3 big signs to watch out for. First, do they have a bad temper? Like a really short fuse when things don't go exactly their way? That's a huge red flag. Second, do they have to win at everything, from a board game to a simple argument? And third, pay attention to their sense of humor. Do they make jokes by putting other people down, but then they absolutely cannot take a joke about themselves?
And listen to this quote from a woman in the book named Rosalie. It's just chilling. She said her partner, Jack, was amazing, right up until the moment they got married. That commitment, that piece of paper, it triggered his need for control. And the kind, caring man she thought she knew just vanished. He was replaced by someone cruel and critical. So, okay, how do you break this cycle? We've defined the problem, and it's a big one. But now we get to the good part, the solution. Section 4 is all about that turning point, learning to say no, and finally, starting to value yourself. Let's take a look at the story of Sally. She was a classic pleaser, completely terrified of her controlling husband, Tom. But her big journey to change didn't start with a huge fight with him. Nope, it started with something way smaller. Her neighbor, Pam, who was constantly taking advantage of her. And this is the moment where everything changed. After years and years of always saying yes, Sally just took a deep breath and she set a boundary. It was simple, it was polite, but it was firm.
And notice, she didn't just say no. She even offered a totally reasonable alternative. This was her very first step. And here's the amazing part. The world didn't end. In fact, that one small no started this incredible, positive chain reaction. It empowered Sally, it boosted her self-esteem, and it eventually gave her the strength to start dealing with the much bigger problems in her marriage.
But let's be really honest here. Setting your first boundary can feel absolutely terrifying. The book is very clear that you should expect a huge wave of guilt to wash over you. That little black cloud is going to show up and start whispering that you're being selfish. But that feeling, it's a normal part of the process. It does not mean you've done anything wrong.
Okay, so maybe you're feeling ready for a change. In our final section, we are going to lay out the first real, concrete steps you can take to start reclaiming your power, and you can start today.
So here's your game plan. Step 1. Decide to act. This is so important because pleasers almost always wait for someone else to change first. Step 2. Do the unexpected. See, controllers count on you being predictable. When you break that pattern, you change the entire dynamic. And step 3. Be brief. No is a complete sentence. Long, rambling excuses just give them an opening to argue with you. Keep it simple.
And here is a perfect example of doing the unexpected. Mary Lou was a single mom, and her teenagers were totally taking her for granted. So instead of yelling, she just stopped cooking dinner and went out to eat by herself, 4 nights in a row. You can bet it didn't take long for her kids to realize that if they wanted mom's help, they needed to start helping too.
So we'll end with this question, because this really isn't just about saying no to other people, it's about what you're saying yes to. Every single time you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to your own peace, your own time, and your own value. So what's one no, even a small one, that you can say this week to start saying yes to yourself?